I've lived in my apartment, a large loft in a former warehouse downtown, for about 3 years now. For the first 2 years, I honestly thought that I lived in the building alone. I don't recall seeing many people ever in the halls or entryway. I mean, occasionally I would run into someone smoking pot in the stairwell or drinking beer by the back entrance, and they'd hide whatever they were doing as if I didn't already know. But more often than not, when I arrived home, the building was silent and I was alone. A year ago, I, half asleep and exhausted from a day working on cars at the local garage, walked into my building and up the stairs to the 3rd floor where my apartment was, and turned down the hall towards my door. Upon reaching the door and pulling out my keys, the door across the hall suddenly opened up behind me, and there she stood, like a neon sign illuminating the darkness just outside my door. Her name was Mary, and she was extraordinary. She was absolutely beautiful, and seemed honestly excited to have opened the door and found me. She had just moved to the city and acted as if we were both living in some 5-star resort, when in my opinion we were really just a few steps above a crack house in the part of town you definitely don't want to be in at night. We exchanged introductions and she asked how long I had lived in the building. I told her it had been a few years, and she assured me that she had just moved into the building. In mid-conversation with her, still standing in the hall holding my keys, my eyes drift slightly past her and into her apartment, which appeared empty, except for a lamp that illuminated the room beyond her. Seeing me do this, she pulled the door slightly tighter towards her body, as if to stop me from looking into the apartment. I didn't think much of it really. I mean, she didn't really know me, and here I was, a stranger, eyeballing her apartment. In my head I laughed and was like, "Way to go, creeper." A pause in the conversation allowed me to take my keys and unlock my apartment door. She looked at me oddly and then smiled. "I'm so sorry, here I am blabbering on and you're obviously tired and probably just want a shower and to relax a bit." I nodded slightly and laughed. "Yeah, a shower would be nice. But don't worry, you haven't been a bother. It's nice to meet you, Mary. It's honestly nice to have a neighbour. I mean, I rarely ever see anyone here." She laughed and assured me that I'd be seeing a lot more of her. We parted ways and I entered my apartment and locked my door behind me. As I locked the door, I looked out the peephole silently, and Mary just stood there and was looking straight at my door. She was there for what felt like minutes before she slowly looked around and then returned to her apartment and gently closed the door. I yawned slightly and put my keys, wallet and phone down on the kitchen table. Sitting down, I untied my work boots and placed them on the rubber mat beside my chair before moving to the kitchen and pouring a glass of cola to drink. A few drinks in, and I had made my way towards the bedroom to collect new clothes and then towards the bathroom to take a shower. Passing from the bedroom through the living room, there was a sudden and extremely loud buzzing sound tearing through the apartment. At first I thought it was a fire alarm, and as I spun on my heels to look towards the kitchen, it suddenly stopped. I began to hear a light crackling sound and Mary's voice echoed through my apartment. "Chris! I didn't know we had intercoms. This is going to be awesome." Her happiness seemed extremely high for the topic she was discussing. I looked at the box on the wall and quite honestly thought to myself that I too did not know we had intercoms. I looked at it and its number pad beside it, and before I could do anything, Mary's voice again comes across the intercom, this time clear and calming. "You type in my apartment number and it'll let you talk directly to me," I thought to myself. How did she know I was even looking at it? So I typed in 205 and replied back to her. I didn't realize these things worked. Nice to know. I let go of the button and looked around the room again, feeling suddenly tired. Pushing the button in again, I continued. "Nice meeting you, Mary. I'm off to take a shower now. I'll see you later." Nothing. No reply. just static and the small red light on the intercom turned off. I shook my head and thought to myself on my way to the bathroom of how it was weird that she'd just randomly try the intercom like that. It was 3 days before I saw her again. I'd been out with some friends. We had gone to a hockey game, and as I entered the building, I couldn't wait to get to bed. I walk up the stairs and down the hall to my apartment. Keys in my hand, I unlock my apartment door, and as I open it, the door behind me opens as well. "Well, hi there, neighbour." I turn to see Mary smiling at me. The light in her apartment encircles her like a halo. She is dressed in a blue skirt and white top and looks as if she had just gotten home from an office job. "Hey Mary," I replied. "How are you tonight?" I wiped my hair up from my face and smiled. "I'm great. You just getting in from work?" she questioned. "No, I stumbled on my words because the questioning tone she spoke caught me off guard slightly. "I was out at the hockey game with some friends. It's been a long day. We lost, by the way." She nodded and laughed slightly. "There's always next time, huh?" "Yeah, I guess," I replied and opened my door. "Good night, Mary," I said, and excused myself as I walked into my apartment and shut the door behind me. I started across the apartment and my intercom blared out again, making me jump as it did so. "Good night, Chris. Maybe if you're free we can do lunch or dinner tomorrow." I walked over to my intercom and looked its worn keys over and looked for a volume dial, but to no luck before typing in 205 and replying, "Yeah, sounds good, Mary. Dinner would be good, I guess. I'll be sleeping late, I'm sure. Quite honestly, my head is pounding." I release the buttons and the red light goes out. No response. I walk back to the door and look through the peephole. Mary's door sat open, and as I peered through the fish-eyed lens, she walked through her doorway, and then after looking oddly out toward my door, she closes hers. I got the feeling that she was looking directly at me and knew that I was watching her in return. Shortly after, I went off to bed. The next day I awoke to the sounds of thunder, and upon getting out of bed I looked out through the window of my bedroom and watched the world before me being literally covered in flashes and waves of rain pouring down as far as the eye could see. I walked my way to the bathroom and shaved before climbing into the shower. Finally feeling fully awake and clean, I get out and dry myself off, putting on a pair of boxers before walking out into my living room. Mary, who is now sitting on my couch in the middle of my living room, turns to face me as I walk half naked into the living room. "Hi, Chris." I jump back in the shock of the situation and try to cover myself. "How did you get in here?" Mary laughed and explained that my door was unlocked, that she'd knocked and thought she heard me say to come in. "My door was unlocked," I replied, my mind chasing the thought that being positive that I had locked the door behind me the previous night. Mary continues, "You don't have to cover up, we're both adults. I'm sure we've both seen another person in their underwear." I nod slightly but continue to try to cover myself as I make my way through the living room to my bedroom before closing the door behind me. How the hell did she get in here? I asked myself. Did I really leave the door open? I quickly put on clothes and then made my way back into the living room. "So where are we going?" Mary asked with a smile. I thought we were doing dinner," I replied. Mary stands up and puts her arms out in a comical shrug. "That doesn't mean we can't hang out now, does it?" Her hair pulled back, she is wearing a loose-fitting long-sleeved shirt, nearly long enough to be a sundress and black tights. She looks too nice to be in this building, I think to myself. No, we can hang out." I stumble on my words as she approaches me. "It's not a problem," I continue on before she suddenly hugs me. The unexpected contact nearly freezes me from movement. Her arms wrap around my torso and pull me closely, her head resting just below my chin on my chest for what seemed like an eternity. Her hair smelled like apples, and I couldn't fight the smile that grimaced across my face when we separated and she looked at me. Hi," I nervously speak as she looks up at me. "You're fun. You know that, Chris." She turned and walked towards my kitchen table. "My parents said I wouldn't be safe on my own here in the city, but I told them there are nice people everywhere and that I would meet them and it would be okay." She turns to face me again and plays with the sleeve of her shirt. You're a nice person, aren't you, Chris? I stared at her for a moment, still reeling from the unexpected contact and the smell of apple shampoo, before replying, yeah, I'm a nice person. I laughed slightly, and she smiles. See, I told you you're fun. She gives me a thumbs up and nods towards the door. So, where are we going? I replied, It's pouring down with rain, like really pouring right now. She nods, then slightly leans forward. Are you afraid we'll melt, Chris? Her voice had a mocking tone, and although she playfully smiled, something just felt off to me in the moment. I walked to the table and claimed my keys, wallet, and cell phone. No, I'm good with it if you are. I lead her with a nod towards the door. We leave the apartment, past her door, went down the stairs and into the doorway of the building. The rain howls as it sends waves of water drowning everything within our view. She points out to my little red car in the empty parking lot. That's yours, right? I wondered for a moment how she knew what I drove, but then figured it was just because there were no other cars near where we had exited the building. Yeah, we're gonna have to run for it, I replied. The rain was freezing as it soaked our every pore as we ran towards my car, which I frantically unlocked with the remote as we approached. Diving inside, we slammed the doors shut and Mary lets out a burst of laughter. I can't resist the smile on my face that her laughter causes. We're both soaked through. Her hair is falling from its hair tie and her oversized shirt clings to her thin frame like a corset as she heavily breathes in and out. I'm taken aback by her beauty, and as my smile grows, I can do nothing but watch her. Well, that wasn't the shower I was expecting today, I say. Her laughter fades into a soft smile as she pushes her hair back and wipes the water from her face. You're fun, she says softly. Her big brown eyes say more than her lips could ever say. Now looking back, the rest of the day is a blur. We got pizza. I know that sounds stupid and it never would have been my idea of how to impress a girl that I'd just met, but that's what she wanted, so that's where we went. We ate and we laughed, and it was perfect. The rain outside didn't slow us down, nor did it dampen the mood. I felt high when I was with her. I frantically absorbed everything I could of her as she laughed her way through our conversations. I wondered what I'd done to deserve this feeling that was growing in my stomach. I should have known that it would end this way. I should have seen the signs that things were not quite right, but in this moment, at the beginning of our relationship, things were perfect in every way. That day we spent every moment together. The rain soaked us as we exited the car back again at our apartment building. As we ran towards the door to get out of the rain, she suddenly stops, and with her arms out she spun slowly in a circle and looked up into the heavens as they poured with rain. She called to me, so I went to her. We wrapped our arms around each other and shared our first kiss there in the darkness and pouring rain. Her lips tasted like nothing I've ever tasted before, and in that moment I knew I was in love. She broke free from our embrace, ran towards the door, and up the stairs. I laughed and chased her towards our apartment doors. I caught up with her and again embraced her, pushing her towards her door. She pushed me back, her lips never leaving mine. The following morning, as we lay unclothed in my bed, I could do nothing but stare at her and wonder where she came from. How I'd gotten lucky enough to be the one she happened to stumble into that first night. I push the hair from her face and she slowly wakes up. As she does so, she suddenly jumps up as if startled. Are you okay? I ask as she scrambles across the bed gathering her things. I sit up in bed as she is quickly getting dressed. Mary, what's wrong? She pushes her hair back into a hair tie before finishing getting dressed and heading towards my door. I'm late for work, she says, and without a single thing more she was gone. Standing now in my boxers in my living room, I was in shock, and I slowly made my way to my front door. I looked through the peephole. She was just standing there in front of her door. Then she opened it, stepped inside, and closed it behind her. I could faintly hear the deadbolt latch behind her. I watched through my peephole for nearly 10 minutes. She never came out. She didn't leave to go to work. She didn't leave to go anywhere. I didn't know what to do. Had I done something wrong? I didn't see her again for the rest of the day. I knocked on her door the next 2 days in a row, and even called her via the intercom system, and no reply. On the third day, I'm coming in from another hard day at work. My feet hurt, my knuckles hurt from busting them whilst working on a customer's car. I want nothing more than to go to bed. I unlock my door and step inside. As I close my door, her door opens and she is standing there looking at me. I pause and open the door slightly back up and look at her. "Mary," I say as she steps from her door and into mine, pushing it open slowly. "I'm sorry, I had to work. Don't be mad," she says as she wraps me in her arms. "That was 3 days ago, Mary. You could have talked to me or answered the door or something. I thought that I'd done something wrong or that you were mad at me." She shook her head. "I just had to work. I'm sorry. I've been busy." She smiles up at me and her big brown eyes look like oceans drawing me in. She inhales slowly. "Come on, you need a shower." She takes me by the hand and leads me to my bathroom. As we stand in the shower, she lovingly washes my body, planting kisses on my chest as she does so. The heat of the water and the calm of it all makes me dizzy. I feel high again. Everything seems so normal, as if nothing had happened at all in the last few days. This is how it has been for the last 6 months. One day it's perfect, we're in love and everything is cascaded in laughter and joy. But every time she spends the night, no matter how good it is or how much she seems to enjoy it, the next day she's gone. Sometimes it's just a day, sometimes several days. One time it was an entire month. I've noticed that even after all this time, the days and nights that I spend with her and only her, ultimately I honestly know very little about her. I know she moved here against her parents' wishes, but I know nothing about them. Who they are, where they are, even where she's from. She says she has a job, but I know she's lying about it. Every time she's ever told me she had to go to work, I'd watch her go to her apartment, but then she wouldn't come out. Sometimes when she goes supposedly missing, I hear movement in her apartment. I know she's there, but there's no communication between us. I started really asking questions a month or so ago, and she has done her best to dodge every single one. I asked if we could spend the night in her apartment and she declined. We've been seeing each other for nearly a year, and I've never seen past her door, apart from the one lamp illuminating the apartment beyond her body in the doorway. I caught her coming out of her apartment this afternoon. I told her I had to work. I'd hidden in my car in a parking lot nearby and walked back to my apartment. Looking through the fish-eyed lens of my peephole gives the world a circular twist, and everything in its view seems askewed from reality. There she is. I watch her as she walks down our hallway. I wait until she reaches the stairs. I open my door and I follow. She goes down the stairs. Again I wait, and then I follow. The parking lot is empty. No cars whatsoever. She walks through the lot and into the woods beyond it. I wait, and then I follow. The forest is cool, and she stands beside the creek staring off into the distance. I hide beyond her view in some bushes as I watch her. She looks so fragile and unkempt, and in this moment I can't help but feel like I'm doing her wrong by doing this. She starts to pace back and forth near the creek's edge and eventually reaches up into a small hole in a nearby tree, withdrawing a small box. I can't quite see what she's doing, but I watch her movements from the safety of my hiding spot. She replaces the box into the tree, and without much more than an upwards glance, she disappears from the forest the same way she had come in. I give her time to go, then I walk down to the spot by the creek. I know that I'm betraying her when I reach into the tree and withdraw the small wooden box. It feels damp, as if it's been there for a very long time. I thumb the latch slightly before opening it. Silk-lined edges encircle the contents. There is a small selection of brown hair that smells of apples, a single large button, and a picture of a girl. The girl in the picture is askewed slightly, as if filmed through the fish-eyed lens of my door's peephole. I know this girl. I've spent every day I could with her since we've met, but the picture makes no sense to me at all. How can it exist? How could she have gotten a picture of herself through my peephole? Why would she hide these things out here? I close the box and place it back into the tree. I slowly make my way back towards our apartment building. I walk inside and up the stairs to the 3rd floor. Her door is ajar. I knock. There is no answer. I knock again, louder this time. "Mary?" I open the door wider as I enter. The view of the apartment stops me in my tracks. The room is empty. The lamp I had seen the day I met her sat atop a cardboard box, and its missing shade allowed the bulb to illuminate the entire area, despite the blackout curtains pulled tightly to the window's edges. "Mary?" I step further through the doorway. Mary suddenly appears from around the corner, pushing me towards the door. "Get out!" she screams. "You can't be here!" Something moved within the room beyond her. It sounded mechanical, low and steady. She pushes me further through the door and into the hall. Her eyes are filled with rage and the beautiful brown oceans are gone. I stare back only at my reflection in their darkness. Now in the hall, Mary suddenly draws back her hand and smacks me with such force, it stuns me and I stumble backwards into my door. She turns and rushes back into her apartment without casting another glance in my direction, before closing the door and double locking it. I can't breathe. My heart races and the world starts to spin around me. I struggle to unlock my door, and upon doing so I throw myself into my apartment and shut the door behind me, making sure to lock the deadbolt. I rest my head on the door and slowly collect myself before looking out through the peephole again. I see Mary. She stands slightly askewed with her head cocked slightly to the right. Perhaps she looks like this due to the fisheye lens. She's looking right at me. How did she get back outside her apartment so quickly? I heard nothing. I don't know what to do. She stands there watching my door as if she can see me. As I stare out through the peephole in my door, watching her watch me. The intercom in the living room crackles to life, and after the static I can hear her voice. "Chris?" Her voice sounds soft and fragile. "Chris, open the door." There is no way possible that that voice on the intercom can possibly be hers. She's right outside my door in the hallway and nowhere near her intercom. "Open the door, Chris." Her voice again echoes across the intercom. I don't move from the door. There's something wrong with Mary. I can't explain what's happening, but whatever it is, it's getting worse. Hey Fizz and friends. If you want to find out what happens next with Mary and Chris, then join my Patreon. Click the link in the description if you want to support my channel further. Please share and subscribe, and remember, keep being creepy.